So our next speaker is an educator to her core, and she's on a mission to help the leaders of tomorrow thrive. She's a prolific writer, scholar, and director at the Ed Snider Center for Enterprise and Markets at the University of Maryland. Now, I was born and raised in Philadelphia, and so I know Ed Snider as the former president of the Philadelphia Flyers, my favorite hockey team. So I'm very happy to see her here. Please welcome Rajshree Agarwal.
Good morning, and thank you for your support for the program on advancing the understanding of free markets by leveraging human enterprise through organizations and markets. Thanks to your support, Celeste is walking around her world, thinking of herself as a product in a market transaction. What is my value proposition to you? What am I worth to you? And she's getting deeply, deeply dissatisfied with her existing relationships. So, thank you. No, but seriously, I think this is a great thing, and I'm so excited to tell you why. Because at one level, this term trading values is about economic transactions. But at a deeper level, it is about the values that underpin trade. Now, Celeste is not alone. Across both the Smith Business, Enterprise, and Leadership Fellows, as well as our Executive MBA's Purposeful Leadership Journey, we encounter hundreds of individuals. And they are looking to be transformed. Especially the undergraduates, let me start by focusing on them. They come to us at the cusp of adulthood. They have imbibed what to think based on what their parents and their teachers taught them, but more importantly, what their peers think, what social media tells them to think. As a result, they don't know how to think either. More importantly, they've adopted a versus mindset. They come deeply suspicious of business enterprises. And markets, they're fundamentally unfair. Why? Because they have a versus mindset. Rich versus poor. American versus immigrant. Business versus social responsibility. Work versus life. They feel like they're torn apart in two. When it comes to how to think, they don't know how to connect ideas together. They don't know how to identify and even evaluate underlying assumptions of their beliefs. And they cannot detect what is fact and what is fiction. They cannot differentiate between reason and emotion. Interpersonally, they're very conflict avoidant. They like to be in groups where they think alike. They're very eager to please. And they're very afraid of being canceled. So often, they do not even voice their true beliefs because of the fear of ostracism. The first attempt at engaging in rational discourse, they retreat, often engaging in moral judgments themselves to alternative points of view. And when it comes to thinking about themselves and having challenging conversations, they see this as a direct threat to their mental health. The executives in our MBA program are just adult versions of these teenagers. Unfortunately, they have taken it even worse. They think about purpose versus profit. shareholders versus stakeholder view. But in the 2 years that this program, thanks to your support, has enabled them, they go into a purposeful journey where they transform themselves. And so what I'd like to do is walk you through particularly the undergraduate program and through Celeste's shoes to see what is it that they experience. In the undergraduate program, we have a 4-semester, 4-course sequence that builds on each other. The future of you, business and society. Enterprising leader. Challenge your thinking, challenge the conversation. And a capstone integration. Each course uses cutting-edge technologies to flip the classroom so that they can focus on experiential learning. And we provide them these concepts in 2 pillars, the pillar of me and the pillar of we. So let me walk you through Celeste's journey and get back to the trading values concept. The first way of thinking about trading values is, of course, in the economic way. What am I trading? So going back to Celeste, thinking of herself as a product in an economic transaction, I gotta confess, I'm to blame. Because I start with asking them a fundamental question. What is the one product that you would find indispensable? Because that's the idea of a value proposition. I'm a teacher, so let's pause. I'm gonna ask you this question. What is the one product that you would find indispensable, so indispensable, that if you don't have it, you're gonna search for it? If you've left and you don't have it with you, you'll turn right back to get it. I see some of you. Go ahead. What's the one product? I'm looking at you holding them right now. The smartphones. Now, many of you in this room, including myself, grew up just fine without this gizmo. Thank you very much. Right? So why is it that this phone has become so indispensable to our lives? If you think about it, it's because it connects us to our world. And what's our world? The places we go, the things that we do, the people that we meet. And by the way, it's not just any phone, right? I'm seeing some of you, you have an iPhone. Others, like me, have an Android. Would you be willing to swap with each other? No way, right? Why? Similar features, similar benefits, but no, we find this one product so indispensable to us, even the brand matters. And so, of course, Celeste has to now start thinking of herself very much like a smartphone. What is it that I'm doing that makes me indispensable to you? How is it that I'm providing you value? Now, moving beyond the economic perspective of trading values, you have to start thinking about, the why. Celeste has to go into, well, why? This goes back to the conversation in the last slide, last speaker. She has to ask the fundamental questions of what's my purpose? What is it that I want to spend the rest of my life doing? What problems do I want to solve? Why are these the problems so important to me? To do that, she has to dig into her current and her past self. Go to the places that she goes to. Meet the people that she meets. Do the things that she does. And figure out what is it that animates her. What are her aspirations? What are her fears? What are her values? That's deep introspection that this teenager has to take on for herself. Because she has to create her mission in life, not just discover it. And to do so, she has to think about what is going to be the meaning of her life's work. Why are these resonating with her fundamental beliefs? What are her fundamental beliefs? Which then gets to the question of how. if she has figured out what problem it is that she wants to solve, how is she going to do that? That brings up the question and the value of a trader mindset. Because the bigger Celeste's purpose, the less likely is it that she's going to do it all by herself. So then she has to figure out what activities she's going to focus on and what activities she's going to expect others to do. How does she figure out what activities she should do? There, I asked Celeste and all of these students to focus on the things where she can say, I love what I do, and I'm good at it. Incidentally, that is true success. Salary and status follow. So then she has to figure out who are her trade partners, who are the complementary people who love what she hates and are good at what she's bad at. But how does Celeste go about identifying these people? What are the criteria that she's going to use? Now, unfortunately, our existing economics, strategy, and entrepreneurship courses, and I'm part of that problem too, initially at least, we often think about markets as platforms for competition. And when we talk about strategy, students often think about organizations having to pursue competitive advantage, win-lose in a stress game. But what Celeste is beginning to realize is that markets are first and foremost platforms for collaboration. Competition is a secondary outcome. It is a disciplining mechanism. In fact, those that focus on value add are going to outcompete those that are not able to do as much because they have not developed the collaborative relationships within organizations or in markets. So, to do so, Celeste has to now think about the philosophical perspective of what are the values that underpin trade. So within each individual, it has to be purpose, productivity, reason, self-esteem. And then across trade partners, there has to be recognition of mutual respect, independence, equality, voluntary relationships, mutual benefits. No wonder Celeste is getting deeply uncomfortable as she's stretching beyond her current skin, as she's re-examining her relationships, both personally and professionally. And more importantly, as she's mustering the courage to challenge her own thinking and challenge the conversation. Because Celeste has to focus on figuring out her why, her chosen purpose. Then she has to figure out the how, seeking voluntary trade among producers that have complementary capabilities, so that she can focus on the what, the values that are being traded in markets. That's a lot of hard work. However, doing this enables them to truly transform themselves. In fact, in the words of Lindsay, another student in the same program, I feel like I'm Steve Rogers being transformed into Captain America. Bringing us back into this room, our trade, thank you for your support, because this has enabled me to achieve my own chosen purpose, enabling upward mobility in intellectual, psychological, and economic realms. Our trade, your support, the honor of being asked to be in this room with you feeds my own mind, body, and soul. So thank you.